Semper Fi, everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of Recon Jack. I'm your host, U.S. Marine veteran and historian Chuck Lynch. On today's episode, I'll discuss the second Commandant of the United States Marine Corps, William Ward Burroughs. Technically speaking, as the Continental Marines was disbanded in 1783, Burroughs could be considered the first Commandant of the United States Marine Corps. However, as we Marines know the importance of our treasured history and can trace our lineage to its founding on 10 November 1775, traditionally, Samuel Nicholas is considered the first official Commandant. Nevertheless, Burroughs still remains an important staple in the history and foundation of the Marine Corps. William Ward Burroughs was born 16 January 1758 in Charleston, South Carolina. He served with the state troops of South Carolina during the American Revolutionary War, but relocated to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to practice law following the conclusion of the war. On 12 July 1798, the day succeeding the Approval Act of Congress for establishing and organizing a Marine Corps, President John Adams appointed Burroughs as Major Commandant of the newly formed organization, which consisted of 881 officers, non-commissioned officers, privates, and musicians. An interesting comparison of the Corps' size at the time is that Congress established a 3-year provisional army of 10,000 men, which would soon become an eventual army of 30,000 men the next year. The United States Marine Corps had its humble beginnings a short time prior to its actual authorization as a corps, and was created to meet an impending national crisis involving a possible war with France. An interesting historical fact of considerable importance is that the United States relied in part on the French government for aid and support against Great Britain during the American Revolutionary War, which had ended only 15 years earlier. Marines had enlisted by the War Department as early as August 1797 for service in the newly built frigates, authorized by the Congressional Act to provide a naval armament of 18 March 1794, which declared the number of Marines to recruit for each frigate. These first Marine units to be formed were ship detachments for newly obtained vessels of the U.S. Navy, which were being quickly placed in commission at the Philadelphia Naval Yard and rushed off to sea to battle cruisers and demolish commerce during the quasi-war with the French First Republic from 1798 to 1800. During the first several months of the First Barbary Wars that Burroughs was Commandant, his principal concern was supplying and keeping up the strength of the Marine detachments for the vessels of the Navy. The headquarters of the Marine Corps was located in an encampment in Philadelphia until the national capital was relocated to Washington, D.C. in 1800. Major Burroughs was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel on 1 May of that same year. A small detachment of Marines was sent to the new capital in March with orders to protect the newly established Navy Yard, while Burroughs, with his staff and headquarters troops, set up camp in Washington, D.C. beginning in July of that year. The quasi-war with France continued until September with the Convention of 1800, when matters were eventually resolved by confirming the concept of free trade and free goods between the two countries. The demands of Congress that the cost of the naval establishment be promptly reduced caused substantial embarrassment to Burroughs in his attempt to institute the Marine Corps on a peacetime basis. The First Barbary War, which is famous in the Corps' history because of significant feats by Presley O'Banion and his Marines during the Battle of Derna in 1805, broke out 8 months later, and the main concern of the Marine Corps was to supply detachments to naval vessels for duty in the Mediterranean. Lieutenant Colonel Burroughs is credited as well with many of the Corps' institutions, including, most notably, the U.S. Marine Band, which he financed to some degree by levying contributions from his officers. He insisted a high standard of professional performance and personal conduct of his officers, which have become staples of the United States Marine Corps. Unfortunately, ill health mandated Lieutenant Colonel Burroughs' resignation on 6 March 1804, and he passed away a year later in Washington, D.C. He was buried in the Presbyterian Cemetery, Georgetown, in the District of Columbia, and his remains were reinterred in the Arlington National Cemetery on 12 May 1892. Overall, Burroughs' contributions to the Marine Corps in regards to leading it as a commandant during the two immediate wars following the American Revolution, as well as the foundation of the Marine Band, has earned him a place of considerably high honor in both the United States as well as Marine Corps history. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Recon Jack, and perhaps you learned something new. I certainly have only scratched the surface of some of the topics discussed today, so stay tuned for more episodes as I continue to explore the hallowed history, traditions, and individuals of the United States Marine Corps. Please feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel, click that notification bell, and leave a comment below. I really enjoy interacting with you folks, as well as seeing the growth of this channel. Also, don't forget to tell a friend or family member. And until next time, Semper Fi, and carry on.